Today we're going to talk about transmuting energy, hermetics. The divine within me recognizes the divine within you. Let us philosophize. I was trying to sit in here, it was just me, and then I had to bring in my monitor. And then I grabbed my phone and I was like, the energy of this phone, the G's are bothering me. Get it out of the sauna. And I did some exercises. And then I realized this is what it is in these times when there's these radiations coming from the sun and from our devices and from each other and from ourselves. We create the opposite to balance it. I mean, it's so simple. It's so simple that it's the most complicated thing you could imagine. Because every direction of the infinite directions that there are in a circle, or something like the shape of my head, every direction, boom, 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 this way, that way, that way, that way, this way, that way, that. There's a really unfathomable options, but we hone in on one and we choose a direction. It's like a ray, and then we try to bring it to its highest potential, and then we kind of move on. And that's the beauty of infinity. We're moving always into the new, continually, and in this new vibration of, it goes beyond our knowledge. First they're like, don't hold your iPhone up to your ear because you'll get brain cancer, and you're like, what? Okay. But then it becomes, we're flashing this, and you gotta cover, you gotta make these walls around yourself, right? And then that in itself, it's like, well, I'm trying to connect to source. So it's not an indiscriminate wall, it's a intelligent wall, right? It's like, why would you try to block everything out? You wouldn't do that in your house, right? If your mom came over and she's like, hey, I've got a lottery ticket for you, or something like that. It's a winner. You're not going to keep her out, right? You're obviously going to let certain things in and certain things keep them out. And it's the same thing with anything, with a planet or with our body. And we create this reality with our mind, as I've told you, and as you probably already know, deep within you, you create this reality with your mind. You've created the limitations with your mind, and maybe limitations are important to you. I'm not trying to take anything from you. I'm just trying to liberate you from anything that's getting in your way of this mission that you have. And I know you have a mission because I feel it in my heart. I know we're one. Some people are like, there's NPCs, bro. There's nobody here. It's like, there's nobody in there in their mind. Like, who's the worst person in the world, right? There's someone in there. They're traumatized and they're confused, maybe, but they're there and they're experiencing it. They are equality field of human being, It's like you violate something with your will, and then the repercussions will happen, reaction, action, reaction. So I'm not trying to deny any reactions that might happen. All I'm trying to say is we're all infinite beings. So we all loop into each other. So we all better take care of each other. And I was thinking, as this transition period's happening, it's like the new age, and it's this Lemurian, I really like this analogy, Lemurian over here in what was the Pacific, and then over here in the Atlantic is the Atlantis, and then in the America in the middle. In the America America's like got this emotional, spiritual root, and it goes beyond the founding of America as we know it in the 1492s and so forth, but but the deep history of America, from giants to, so apparently these Lemurians were giants, and they lived here in a magical, emotional, natural state. And although they were powerful, they were akin to beasts, where they weren't in control of their will as we are. And this is generations late, this is a different epoch now, so we are much less in touch with our magical ability. And some of us, obviously, that differs. Some of us are like on another level, but I'm just referring to the mean here, the center, like the average human being at this time. So we have this opportunity in this shifting of the time to redefine what's next. And it seems clear that Make America Great Again had its merits and its problems. And some of the things that I think, for me personally, that were brought to light is a lot of people are being let down by the organization of the government, right? And it needs to be reorganized, right? It's pretty like obvious, and the people who run it are just gonna be like, no, everything's fine. It's like the do, and it's like, yeah, no, it's good here. Keep playing, everybody. Keep going. And as the Titanic sinks and the band is playing, sort of thing happening now that everybody's seeing, but there are parts of the old world that we should probably stand upon, to have some firmness in what we're doing, so we're not starting from nothing. But also we need to let what's washing away right now. We're seeing what shouldn't be there. We need to what the incentives are insane, right? And all these loopholes and people tied in the money, and then there's the whole mess of this secret state, and it's well, more and more our minds are opening up, so there's no more secrets. People can read minds, people can see the future and the past, and they can see any space and in time space what's happening. You just give them a cue and they're like, oh, yep, there's a caterpillar there. And with incredible accuracy, human beings, I'm not saying myself, but just human beings, the elite, right? Seers. So what we do is we find that intuitive place of people have been talking about living your authentic selves, and that means breathing completely, moving. Yep, you're moving to do what you're supposed to do on Earth. It takes some movement, right? The whole range of motion is really what your body was designed to do. So your body is where your spirit is gonna be hanging out. So if you can range that motion, it's really gonna make things possible that didn't seem possible when they were contracted, right? Because when you expand, it's more, I can stretch way, I can open, it's I can lift, and you just keep going and find more space, right? And then when you contract, which is also important, you let go of that space, right? It feels good and relaxing. And as you relax, you become more authentic. And that's what everyone's we need to be authentic or we're going to fade away. And it's for sure, because there's only so much room for error. You have to be yourself. If you're going to try to be this and hang on to this body with this spirit, and it all becomes disparate. And this big conflict with what's coming in, right? We're coming in with all this, even beyond Atlantis and Lemuria. It's like post, as those things sort of swallowed each other, or didn't vibe, right? Like it's like male and female. We heard the story of Lilith, who didn't vibe with Adam, right? And they were just like, okay, well, maybe they had children or something, or had separate children or whatever. But now there's this aftermath, and then it has come to a point where everybody's one again. We've all intermingled and become where the snake is the bird and the dragon is the eagle, and everything is one, because we've all been around the world for a number of years, progenerating. The world's changed. And the stars change, and those who change with the stars survive. When the radiation from the heavens comes down, the radiation changes. You know, the rhythm changes, and the amount of heat and infrared and ultraviolet and everything, is the balance is completely different with the atmosphere changing and everything. So we always adapt, and this adaptability is just like in the moment. It's not like something that happens like, well, half of everybody dies. That only happens if people don't see the moment. Everybody's welcome to see that. And when you come into the moment, you realize that any radiation that's hitting you is like just another thing to adapt to. If you're try to give you a really good example. So if you had if you had one of those pieces of paper that a spy uses, and it disappears, and it takes one drop of water for one little fortune cookie paper to disappear, right? So you have a vial with, let's say, 10 drops of water, and you got 10 little pieces of paper. So you line up the papers in such a way that you know where the drops of water are going to be. So it's like a negative and a positive number, right? So you got your fortune cookies, like, so say my phone's shooting right at me like this. So I put up a wall of fortune cookie papers for every particle of light that my phone comes out, right? There's no extra, like I'm not wasting anything. But what I'm doing is I'm compensating. So if there's a positron coming at me, then I send an electron. And likewise, if there's an electron, then I send a positron. If there's a blue electron, then I send an orange positron. And you have to like get more and more advanced as the technology gets more and more advanced, right? Or the stars get more and more advanced in the case of the age of Aquarius. So we're trying to bring in like a shield, but not a shield that blocks out what we want to keep. So we're keeping ourselves open. So it's like a field. It's like a force field rather than a shield. So a good way to look at it. And the way to maintain something like that is to clear out everything else, because your boss of yourself is like people like to call it the oversoul, the monad. I like to call it the manu because I'm cool. But basically it's this part of your being that you think is separate from you. So therefore it is, right? So therefore it's like hovering over you, just like, I'm over you, I'm your oversoul, I will help make sure your mission gets, and you're just like, oh, what is this? I'm trying to do this. And it's like, what about the mission, man? And that communication doesn't always necessarily ring, but we always have an opportunity to like tune into it. It's like, yeah, just because there's a radio signal out there doesn't mean that you are going to hear it. Some people will tune their radio to it and they will hear it, others will not. Some people will just tune their mind into it naturally, by their will. And some people will be forced into hearing it to a point of annoyance. Like, I hear this station, it won't shut up, right? That happens occasionally. I'm not trying to blame anybody for that. I'm just saying, like, we have to, if we hope to win, we really have to take responsibility. And I think I just want to talk about, like, what's happening in the world as far as the MAGA, because I always loved how they take really magical words like Amazon, like warrior, ancient. Amazons are ancient, androgynous, giant warriors. Maybe these are the Lemurians I was speaking of, or the Atlanteans. Maybe, I don't know all the details. And of course, I believe that these are fluid details. I don't believe in a fixed past, but I do believe in a tangible evidence of history that's beyond what the consensus is for my experience on Earth. So there's all this bombardment, and what ends up happening, and you'll see it in yourself and in me probably, and in everybody around you, where it's called I had a rabbi, right? I'm not Jewish or anything, but a hippie rabbi, right? And he was like, he was Jewish, I'm not. And he told me that Babylon is like now not Babylon, the current place, or Iran, or any of that, but I'm talking about, like, in the time of the writing of his holy books, when they referred to Babylon, they spoke in what we would call multi-layered meaning. They were expert at the numerology and everything. So their stories couldn't just be like, this is what happened, ABC. It would be closer to, this is a true story, and the numbers line up, and the metaphors and the meanings and the histories and everything is one complete. When you read it, you gain, right? It's worth writing, it's worth reading, because there was only so much of that resource of writing and reading in those times. It was for the priests, the Brahmins. So he told me that the bread, right, and the wine, first of all, he told me, this isn't the body of the blood, we just eat it. So why do we have to make it about the body and the blood? But he said it in a better accent that was like New York Jewish, even though he's living in Israel. But the point, what I'm trying to get at, is he ate potato chips at a sacred gathering. It was a little different. But he did say that Babylon was like, metaphorically, when all this stuff is coming at you in all these directions, it's a merchant, come and get your peaches, and there's all this stuff like drowning out your quiet, your mental quiet. It's the opposite of mental quiet. That's what Babylon means. And Zion means the salvation, the quietude, the mountaintop, the holy place, the sacred space, the temple of Jerusalem, where there's a connection to the divine force that was in favor of these people. And generally speaking, there were divine forces in favor of the people who survived, because they had the advantage over the people who did not have divine forces. And I think that's still true to this day. And there's a divine force in charge of the nation states, the cities, the townships, the villages, and all that. I think it's still a thing. And I think there's, stronger and weaker forces evident in the energy around said localities. Another thing I want to say now is when these drops of this fortune cookie dissolving paper, and they're all disappearing in front of you, but it's like it's important that you're not doing it with your will. I mean, with your consciousness, because your consciousness is busy. So you set out these servants, right? Servants. So it's all these S words. My name is Smith, right? And S is like two C's. My name is Chris. So these S's are like serpents, and serpents are like currents of energy. And the difference between like a dragon and a serpent, right? Beyond that, a dragon is greater than a serpent, if you will, is that a serpent is, because it is by definition less than many things. It has no legs, it has no arms, it's got four less. So if we are like a five-pointed star, then the serpent is like what? Like a line, right? Or like a less than, it's not even a line, it's like a current, right? It's not a fixed thing. It's flowing. It's like, where is it? Where it's not stepping anywhere, right? You go in holes, it can disappear, it can just like shed its skin, swallow another serpent. Like, this stuff's incredible. Like, serpents are incredible. And in the Jewish writings, they had these staffs, but these staffs were serpents. And famously, the Moses was standing up to his former foster father, or brother, I don't know, the Pharaoh, and he said, "Well, my staff, right, is greater than yours." And then he threw it down and it became a snake. And he said, "My God, whatever, it's a great one, the one true, awesome goddess. The goddess took the goddesses." And Pharaoh was like, "Oh, but I have all these priests from all these classes, and they have their staffs and their snakes, and they all throw down their staffs, and they're like, we have this Aset and Bastet and Habashet and Mabashet," and they throw them all down, and of course Yahweh snake eats them all, right? As the story goes. And the lesson is that because Moses stands within the favor of the gods, then even though the Pharaoh has God's favor, it's like not as great as Moses' God's favor, right? And that's kind of how that whole arrow was running, as far as who's gonna rise and who's gonna fall. And I do believe that this is post strong hermetic discipline, and we are now pre-strong hermetic discipline. And how we create hermetic discipline is important to understand. Why would we ever want to do this, right? So we're confronted with this time with all the scandals in the zeitgeist of this terrible underbelly of the industrial complex with the anti-Christ post-Nazi Jewish, I don't know, probably not allowed to say any of that, so I'll probably have to bleep it out. But the point is something's going on, like, and we gotta understand how to protect yourself, because if you identify with something, then it's like you hook yourself into it. So if you feel you're hooked into anything, you can just sever that connection, heal it like a tree. Sever, heal. Some people like to slice. I feel like it's a little traumatic. I like to imagine an elf just touches my trunk and all my branches fall, no wounds, just everything's heal. And as you heal, right, you realize that you can protect yourself from the cycle of having to put all your energy into healing self if you put up the barrier. Because it's like, if you know what's coming before it comes, then you can protect yourself. So if a ion that has a green, a green spectrum positron, and you put a red spectrum negatron, and you put up a little one particle for one particle, and as it hits, it disappears. That fortune no more. But there's no extra energy put out by you. Therefore, it's infinitesimal. It's not even your energy. Like I said, you put all these fairy and serpents and messengers and dragons and unicorns and ancestors, right? And they're all protecting you in the most benevolent way. And there's only benevolence because of all this activity that is countering all the activity that's a stimulus. And that's exactly what we're talking about when we talk about hermetics. Is you're trying to get back to, right? Trying to get back to stillness and nirvana and all the holy states of your mind, that where it's rising and it's flowing like a fountain, right? And it's replenishing your body. Because if you're replenished, because for how much it takes to heal from a wound from a laser shot, imagine how much less it takes to put out an anti-laser shield with your mind. Well, not even you, because I'm trying to delegate it to you, but really what you're doing is you're creating an environment through your thoughts and your healthy thoughts, where there's a field around you, an aura, which is measurable, and that is the space that all these beneficial spiritual beings protect you in. So you're not interfering with anyone else's space. You're claiming your space, and then whatever's coming in, you're counterbalancing it. And then everything within your space is sacred in every moment.